therapy good for you? Or is plunging into the icy deep lethal? Stay tuned for the freezing truth. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, at the home of common sense and free speech. You're tuned to Talk, the nation's favourite news station. It's an instant sensation. Let's spend Monday night together. And one of the people I'll be spending Monday night together is in the studio right now. He is political commentator and, of course, my fellow talk presenter, Russell Quirk. Welcome, Russell.
Good evening.
Now, we're going to talk about women. JK Rowling wrote a very powerful piece in the Times saying that no matter how much she and women campaigners scream from the rooftops, please can we have safe same-sex spaces? Please can we know, that when we're in the changing room, there aren't biological males creeping around, being creepy, frankly, and so on and so forth. Please can you stop referring to women as people with cervixes, because that's sexist, that eradicates women, and so on and so forth. She says we keep saying this, Starmer keeps making the right noises and then doing nothing about it. And frankly, the direction of travel now is not good. Let's talk to, from the Sex Matters organisation, Fiona McAnena. Hello, Fiona.
Hello, Kev.
Well, you saw JK Rowling's piece in the Times all over the front and she wrote a big piece on page 4, and it's really just as I laid it out, isn't it? That the Labour Party in particular, I know we've got problems with all the parties, but the Labour Party loves to say, we're all for women's rights, and yes, females, yes, we're the party for females and males, for everyone, we're wonderful. But they don't listen to you, do they? I mean, all you're saying, and by the way, I support you all the way, JK Rowling, the Sex Matters organisation, all you're saying is when we go to the loo or when we, go to the changing rooms or anything like that, is it okay that we know we're in a safe same-sex space, that there aren't males creeping around among us? Can you assure this? Can you stop referring to women as people with cervixes, people who get pregnant, people who menstruate? The word is women. Now, there are indications today, Fiona, that if Labour get in, we've made some progress with the Tories. They finally seem to be batting on a common sense wicket about this. But the indications are Labour may turn the clock backwards. All the good work that you guys have done may be reversed. Does it worry you?
Yes, I mean, what worries us is that when we want to talk about rights and everyone's human rights, and particularly when we say women's rights, politicians say back to us, oh, but trans rights. Now, everyone has the same rights, and some people need special provision. Trans people may need special provision in some cases, but we know for sure, and it's long been established, that separating the sexes in some circumstances is the very best thing for everybody, not just for safety for women, although that's a big consideration, but also for privacy and dignity and peace of mind. And so it's pretty problematic when we find politicians can't seem to hear anyone talking about women's rights anymore without bringing up trans rights, because both groups need consideration.
Yes, indeed. The shadow education minister or secretary was indicating that under Labour, kids might be able to sort of identify as whatever they feel like identifying again, very easily able to do that. And they could well be taught once again that there are 107 genders or any such nonsense like that. Now, the Tories have said, look, basically, if you don't teach that there are only 2 genders, if you want to teach the rest of that old claptrap, you've got to say, at the very least, it's disputed. There's nothing to prove there are 107 genders. But you must have spotted this, Fiona, and it looks to me as if Labour might be keen to reverse back into that dark world where kids are being told lies in classrooms for woke reasons.
Well, I think what we see is a lot of confusion about this. That everyone believes that children should be free of stereotypes and free to express themselves and do whatever they like. But some people seem to think that means that they can choose what sex to be. There have been consultations. They're currently in abeyance waiting for the election. Let's hope that whoever forms the next government will take hold of that and pick it up, because we were moving in a good direction. a direction that I think would protect children from being taught things that will just make them confused and unhappy.
And I mean, again, this is about politicians listening to people like you, or to any of us, come to think of it. That would make a change, wouldn't it? Politicians actually listening to anyone. But this is what you're saying in terms of school kids being taught, you know, educated in class. We cannot have it that they're being told lies, that they're being told, contested nonsense. You can't stand in front of a class full of, I don't know, 11-year-old kids and say, listen, kids, there are 107 genders. And today we're going to learn about the neutroid gender. I mean, this is just sci-fi rubbish. It's rubbish. And the idea that we're even debating whether or not to tell children lies in the classroom, in modern day Britain beggars belief, doesn't it?
Well, and we'd say you can't keep children safe in school unless you're very clear that there are two sexes, there are boys and girls, and sometimes they have to be kept separate for the benefit of all. And if you're going to get into a discussion that some children might pretend to be the other sex or really believe they're the other sex, you just end up undermining the integrity and the truth of everyone in that organization, everyone in that school. It's right to teach tolerance, it's right to teach acceptance, but it's wrong to teach children that maybe they aren't the sex they thought they were, because as you say, there are only two sexes and no one can change sex. So I think things have got somewhat off the rails, and let's hope they can get back on, because there is evidence that children are influenced by that. They believe they're responsible adults around them, and if people teach them that their conformity to stereotypes means that really they're in the wrong body, then some children will believe that, and it's not going to make them happy.
Indeed. I've been. JK Rowling wrote in the Times, as long as Labour remains dismissive and often offensive towards women fighting to retain the rights their foremothers thought were won for all time. She goes on to say, I'll struggle to support them. She struggles to support Labour for that reason. Now, what I think is going on here, you tell me what your analysis is, Fiona, but what I think is going on, Labour politicians, people like Keir Starmer, they basically live in North London. They don't really know much about the real world, but, they're Labour and they're trying to be woke. I mean, the Tories do it as well. Oh, what's the new right-on hip thing to say about this? Oh, I know. We don't call them women anymore. We call them people with cervixes. Well, once they do that, then they are taking away from women's rights. It's women's rights. A woman's right is to be called a woman. So what they try to do, these left-leaning politicians, and as I say, I should include the Tories, because loads of them have done it as well. Don't you remember Penny Mordaunt standing in the House of Commons and addressing the MPs saying, a trans woman is a woman? Well, sorry, Penny, but that's not actually true. But that's what they're trying to do. They're somehow or other trying to be hip and modern and cutting edge. And in that process, they cut you, women, right out of their equation. And therefore, I think, spill over into egregious sexism.
I think you're exactly right. And many people's motivation is good. They think that trans people have difficult lives and that we need to accommodate them. Some people think this is the new gay rights, but gay people never asked for special consideration. They just asked for equality of opportunity, and they were not impinging on other people's rights or other people's lives. And I think what's frustrating is that the empathy that those politicians have for trans people doesn't seem to extend to women who need the privacy of single-sex spaces. It doesn't seem to extend to children who shouldn't be taught that they need to medicate their bodies. So, we would just say, let's make sure we consider every group here rather than put one group at the center and never mind the consequences for everyone else.
And will sex matter? A couple of things, Fiona. Will sex matters demanding sounds a little over the top, but yes, demanding that Keir Starmer's Labour government, because that's what we're going to get, does ensure that pupils at schools, at state schools, are not taught that there are 107 genders, or 125, or whatever the fashionable number is this week, and also that pupils can't turn up at school and say, well, I just left my mum and dad, they don't know, but while I'm at school I'd like to identify as the opposite sex, and the school goes, fair enough, don't tell the parents. That's what's been going on so far. Will you be demanding from a Labour government that they ensure both of those things don't happen?
Yes, whoever's next in, we will be saying, let's restore safeguarding the way it's always been understood, the way it's always been done to keep all children safe. And that means implementing the CAS review in full, which is the healthcare part of it, and implementing the school's guidance, which means that schools to clinic pathway that was happening for gender confused children is stopped. And we absolutely will be asking for that. And one more thing we will be asking for of the next government is, let's make the Equality Act clear. If it is a Labour government, they created the Equality Act. There's a characteristic in there called sex, and you're allowed to segregate on the basis of sex. And we need that to be restored as a norm for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, worth pointing out, Fiona, that JK Rowling is a traditional Labour supporter, has in the past been quite a serious donor to the Labour Party, but she's saying in terms of women's rights, Keir's stumbling attempts to navigate this difficult area, although why is it difficult actually, but he finds it very difficult. She says in terms of this, she's going to struggle to vote for Labour. Will that be the same for you, and do you think that many women will take the same view?
I think a lot of women are really troubled right now to find that something that we thought was in the bank, which was women's rights, and something that we thought wasn't contested, which is that sometimes we need single-sex spaces, that doesn't seem to be accepted anymore. And it's not just the Labour Party. The Liberal Democrats are all for self-identification of sex, so they think you should be able to just change your birth certificate on request. So, across the political spectrum, it's a very difficult time to be a female voter. If female privacy and rights are important to you, yes, we are facing difficult choices.
Yes, I date back, Fiona, to those prehistoric times, when I was a school kid or when I was a younger guy. They had these two kinds of lavatories. One was called gents, and the other was called ladies. Now that was a system that lasted for many over 100 years, and I think looking back retrospectively, it was a system that worked quite well.
Yeah.
What lunatic decided to get rid of it?
Well, and who was asking for it to be changed?
Exactly.
And this is a huge problem in schools where the boys and girls now all share the same facilities, and most people don't like it, but the ones who are most harmed by it are the girls. So it's not progress.
And you hear these horror stories of girls who are so traumatized about going to the loo because there's going to be boys running around that they hold it in all day, which is physically bad for them and not mentally very good either. We've got to get out of this insanity. I'd like to say that I hope we will when we get a new government, but the signs are not good. But let's keep our fingers crossed. Fiona, great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Fiona McAnena there from Sex Matters.